my, that's hot, hot. Yeah, you ready? Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's Oversight Committee for the Northeast Neighborhood Housing Strategies Oversight Committee. Try saying that fast. Glad you are with us. Good for us to be together. It's a couple of minutes after 6, and those of you who know me, starting at 6 is a kind of key commitment. I love to start on time and then be thoughtful around our time because it's such a irreplaceable commodity. So those who are in the room, thank you for being here, and those who are online, we're glad you're here as well. I anticipate others will be joining us tonight. Tonight's meeting will not be as robust as has been in the past. It's not as packed of an agenda, which can offer us an opportunity to have further discussion. So glad you are here. Norma, if you'd start the recording, or have we already got it going? Awesome. For those who are in the room, hopefully you have the agenda in front of you, and others that are joining online that you've had an opportunity to receive it via email and can look it over. I'm going to run through our agenda pretty direct, and then I'm going to do a roll call for the Oversight Committee at the end of the meeting because we have some new members to be introduced tonight. And with that being said, I will give it over to, for our director's update. We have an interim back with us. Several of you know Michael. Michael, good to see you.
Thank you, Dr. Holtz. It's nice to be back, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Michael Bonacore, and I have been doing affordable housing work in Portland for a long time. And about a year and a half ago, I served as the interim director for the Portland Housing Bureau. And I am back in that capacity. So you may have heard or seen in the news that Helmi Hisserick, the Portland Housing Bureau director, has been placed on leave, which is a difficult transition moment for the Bureau and not the circumstance under which I would prefer to be here with you all tonight. In essence, I am the director update. I have been back in the role for 8 days now, so still getting my feet underneath me, although the work of the Bureau is familiar to me. There's a lot to catch up on. New form of city government since last time I was in this seat. That's invigorating. And as sort of serious a moment as this is for the Bureau, it is really a joy for me to be back working with this team and really lovely to be with you all this evening. So thanks for having me.
Thank you. We are going to go to our next item. Or any questions for Michael before we move? Oversight Committee members, anyone online? Questions for Michael? Any of the Oversight Committee members? All right, next item. Our neighborhood housing preservation update. Mr. Trent and Mr. Bailey. Good to see you.
Good evening, Dr. Hope. Good evening, members of the Oversight Committee, Director, and Leslie, Ms. Goodlow. My name is John Trent. I'm with the Neighborhood Housing Preservation Manager. Although I think our presentation will be a little bit robust, Dr. Hope. So hopefully we all get to hear some great news about home ownership. With that, I'm going to pass it over to Ira Bailey, my colleague, to introduce himself and go through the slides.
Good evening, Oversight Committee. Next slide. My name's Ira Bailey. I'm a housing program coordinator, so I get to help coordinate the process between families and Portland Housing Center and homeownership. So to date, just want to say we have helped a total of 133 families become first-time home buyers. I think when we met last, would have been September, that number was 132 with one pending. That person actually did close. As you can see, we have one pending, which will bring that total up to 134. It is not a big jump in numbers, but we do have about 3 families currently shopping who are not represented on this list. And so we just need to get those closings set. One of those families will be purchasing in Northeast using Prosper Portland dollars, and then the other two will be using the short-term rental fee dollars, so purchasing citywide. Next slide.
Hold on, you went too fast.
Oh, sorry, go back.
Back up 1 second, please.
Mhm.
Give us the total number again.
133 families.
I think that's worth celebrating, right? I think that's a big deal. There we go. Thank you.
That one that's pending is set to close this month, so that will be 134 by the end of November. And then we have some that are scheduled potentially to close in December. I just don't want to count them too early because of the market changes and things that could come up during an inspection that will cause them to drop out. So, but I do expect by the time we meet in January, we'll have some more pending for those, and you'll probably see a little red tip on top of the Prosper Portland column, and then another in the short-term rental fee. That the Prosper Portland has been a little bit more popular, a little bit more recently because of the income, the AMI's requirements, which for those of you who may not know, the Northeast dollars are Portland Housing Bureau funded TIF dollars, or tax increment financing, and those have an income limit of 80% if you're purchasing a 2-bedroom, and if you're purchasing a 3, that limit can go up to 100% AMI. With the Prosper Portland dollars, it covers the same area as the Northeast, which is the Interstate Corridor Urban Renewal Area, which you may hear as the ICURA. And that income limit is 80 to 120% AMI, so it's helping the higher income families who are on the preference policy and have been able to accumulate some income. But it also does not require an income or a household size. So there isn't a spread on the bedroom size, so smaller families who might be above 80% can still get into a home ownership. So it's the benefit of both of those. And then just so since we're talking about that, the short-term rental, or the citywide that we're using right now, which is funded by short-term rental fees, that area median income limit is also 100% and is not bound by bedroom size for that. Great. Next slide. So we have historically tracked the race and ethnicity data because we want to make sure that we're reaching as many people as we can, and we want to be able to capture and celebrate the work. And we can also show who was actually impacted by the city actions which led to the preference policy. And so as we can see, we have 87, and these are all also self-identified. And so we have 87% of the families have identified as Black or African American, 1% as Native American, 7% as white, 2% or 6% as white, sorry, 2% or 3 families have identified as multiracial, 1 as Asian, and 4 as straight Hispanic. And these are a total of the subsidized homes. So the 133 that you saw before also included 12 families that purchased without any of our funded dollars. This is just the 121 families we've helped with subsidy, whether that was direct down payment assistance or purchasing in one of the condo units that we had, which is Olin, where there were 12 units, or the Kenton development, which was 30 units. So I just wanted to let you know where those numbers came from. Next slide, please. We also have been tracking the household income demographics. It's really important for us because we want to make sure that we are targeting families, and all families within different income limits are able to purchase. So as you can see, we have 46%, or 46 families, 38%, which is the largest bucket, have been between 61 and 80% AMI. We have had 29%, roughly a little bit more than a quarter, are between 81 and 100%. And we have 7% or 8 families between 101 and 120. And what I'm most proud of is that we have a little bit more than a quarter of the families who have been between 0 and 60% AMI. So we've had 32 families, and I believe the lowest AMI in that is 15% household, AMI household. So pretty excited about that. Next slide. So just wanted to give you a quick update on what's next for the preference policy and kind of where we've been. As you may be aware, we opened up the homeownership wait list in 2024. Since that time, we've worked with Portland Housing Center to have some info sessions. In July and August, we had, or most recently, we had some info sessions in September and October for 4-point households. In July and August, we had some info sessions for 5-point households. And then for people who didn't make those, we had a makeup session for 4 and 5-point households in October. And as you can see, there's natural attrition that comes. Unfortunately, 55 families were invited to that makeup session, 21 RSVP to attend, and out of that 21, only 12 actually attended. So we do lose folks, unfortunately, because of that. The next sessions we have, and just so you know, we've gone through eminent domain, 6-point households as well. So we did that at the end of last year and at the beginning of this year. Right now, Portland Housing Center has 2 counselors who are working with the families, and their appointments for intake and assessments are actually booked out through December. So we're going to be having a 3-point household info session probably mid-February. We're working on those dates. She gets booked up really fast, so that's a good thing. Next slide, please. Are there any questions? Any questions?
Thank you very much. What a moment. I'll defer first, or I will go to our online members and ask if there are any questions. I saw Tanisha. Is she still there? She was in. And I thought I saw Sheila. Achilles, good to see you this evening. Any questions, sir? You're muted. Hold on one second, Achilles. Is that on our end or is that on his end?
I unmuted myself. Can you hear me?
Oh, we can hear you now. Beautiful.
Okay. My question was, since 21 people or families made reservation, RSVP, and only 12 showed up, do you have any reason why the other ones didn't show up?
We don't. So out of that 21, that was actually a makeup session. So we give them a deadline to RSVP, and then people just show up or don't show up. Reasons I've gotten in the past from people who just didn't show up was, oh, I forgot. I got sick. I had an emergency. I just didn't know about it. I wasn't ready. I don't know if I really want to do this. I'm uncertain. Like, those are just, examples of things that people have said. I will say that with the notice that goes out, so essentially what happens is I invite them to the in-person info session, which is the best way to capture people and get questions answered. If they RSVP for that and don't show, or they don't RSVP, I offer the makeup session, because I don't want anyone to think that they're not given a fair chance. And then at the end of that info session, if they don't respond by the end of all of that, by the initial or the makeup, then I send them a rescindment notice. And then even after that rescindment notice, I give them an opportunity to request an appeal to get back on the list. So we're very flexible and very friendly with that. There have been times people have moved, lost the address, so there are times I'll send out an invitation and then those letters get back, but I also try to reach people by email if that's the case. And then in the worst case scenario, I try to make a phone call. So I don't want anyone to have less than 2 of my attempts to try to reach them.
Excellent. Great job. Yeah, because like you said, you gave them a resentment letter, but you still gave them an opportunity if they'd like to come back and get back on the list.
Yes.
Great job. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you, Achilles. Claudio, hello and welcome to your first Oversight Committee meeting tonight. I'll have you introduce yourself later, but do you have any question in regard to what was just reported?
No, I think the data speaks for itself. So thank you guys for presenting those numbers tonight.
Awesome. Now, to those who are in the room, also new to the meeting tonight, Jesse, do you have any question?
I got a quick question. Thank you. Hi, my name is Jesse Goncalves. I loved the reflections on specifically that you've been able to assist a lot of folks with like 0 to 60% AMI and getting into housing. And I'm curious what like ongoing resources are available to folks. For example, with like mortgage payments and things that come after that initial subsidized purchase.
Oh, thank you. That is a great question. At this time, the only program that the Housing Bureau has is the down payment assistance. Well, we actually have a couple of programs to help people stay in their homes. The initial is the down payment assistance, and that provides. The ideal is that it provides not only the upfront money to get in, but it brings the mortgage down enough that it stays within that affordability range, which ideally the target is that 30 to 35% of the income. Beyond that, one of the great things that this process involves is working with a counselor. And part of that counseling is going over the budget to make sure families get into homes and they understand the requirement that's going to be expected to carry that mortgage payment. Sometimes these families do get into a home that needs repairs. And so some of our funding comes with a requirement to use as home improvement, which is a grant, so it's not even tied to the loan portion. And I want to speak, just in case you don't know how the down payment assistance loan works, it's a 30-year silent second mortgage, which means there's no payment, no interest accruing, and then if you stay in the house for 15 years, half of it gets forgiven, and then about 3% every year after that, and then at the end of 30 years, it's totally gone. So the loan itself is a tool of affordability. And then once they're in the home, if they need assistance with repairs, so that if they don't have the finances, we can like hook them up with a partner or connect them with one of our partners that we fund for home ownership repairs. We ourselves have a home ownership or home repair loan product, which is also a silent loan for 15 years. And then we connect with partners who provide, if there's a financial issue or they're facing foreclosure, we have a couple of partners who do foreclosure prevention counseling, who also will work with the banks to help them modify the loan. And then we also have a program where we've partnered with African American Alliance for Homeownership and the Commons Law Center to help get the real estate asset into a trust. So that helps protect the property and keep it in the family as well. And then that service for families who are 80% and below is free. So they're getting free legal services with that program.
Awesome. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Ms. Virgie, any question?
No, but I just want to congratulate them on the report today and say it's a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And also sitting next to Ms. Virgie is a new Oversight Committee member that we're welcoming in tonight. Lex, do you have any question?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Awesome. Ms. Goodlow, I see your name tag up.
So Ira, out of the, so we had 1,000 people apply, and we verified about a little more than 400, correct? So out of those 400, how many people have, or what percentage of folks have shown up for their orientation? So what's the dropout rate? Do you have an idea?
I would guess and say the dropout rate is about 30%.
Okay.
We're losing percentage. The nice thing is that it's not at the higher end. So as we've gone down in point value, is the number has increased. So we had the most or the highest turnout with the 7 points or eminent domain families, and then the second highest with the 6 pointers, and then so forth with the fifth with the 5 pointers. So right now, yeah, I would say like 30%, but I would have to look at the actual invites and resends to give you an exact.
And so I know we have discussed giving the 600 folks that did not verify an opportunity to verify. Do you think we're going to need additional people in order to fill the number of, and I say slots in air quotes, in order to fill like all 50 of the spots out at whatever the new name is, some Point North, North Point, and some of the other, and the down payment assistance?
No, I think if we can go back to a couple of slides in my presentation. The page with the info session, or if not, if you have it in your handout, the page with the info session. So as you can see with the 3-point, these are all people who have verified their points that they applied with. So we have, I'd say over 200. I'm just eyeballing it. Looks like 200 or close to 200, 70 plus 80, 150, sorry. So I haven't had to take a math class in a while. Forgive me for that. But so we have about 150, 160 families left just to go through the pipeline. With the new developments, we have 50 going into what was formerly known as Cary Boulevard. We have 8 that are going in on the Abbey property. And then we have made the commitment to support or try to support up to 12 households at least for the Williams and Russell development. It's going to be hard to tell if we'll need to touch that list because we've utilized some of the lessons learned. So one of the challenges that we had with the last one is that families just didn't want them. We reached out over and over. They qualified for it, but they just didn't want to live in a stacked housing unit development like that. With these new developments, they're all townhomes. And I can say that Habitat for Humanity has reached out to the to the families to see what do they want in the homes, helping to increase buy-in for those developments. The same thing has happened with Williams and Russell. The same interest has been told to and at least exemplified a little bit with the Abbey site development. So I don't think it's going to be the same issue. So I don't, with the resources we have and with those available units, I don't foresee us needing to touch that unverified list.
Oh, one last question.
Yes.
Do we know if anyone so far has signed up for Cary Boulevard? I mean, Point North?
No. And that is because Habitat doesn't really want the families yet, because they're not going to be completed with that development until like 28, 29. And so they need the families closer to about a year out. And although there have been families that have expressed interest in Abbey, so we're working on the pipeline and getting those folks connected with Proud Ground, who's going to be handling the land trust and the management for the Abbey site. For the formerly known as Cary Boulevard, like the artist formerly known as, but those families will get connected directly with Habitat for Humanity. So we're just kind of in a waiting game with that. I will say one of the things that we're looking to do now is confirm with Proud Ground as well as Habitat what the allowable AMIs can be and when that income can be calculated. Because one of the challenges are we could have a family that qualifies right now but become over income, in less than a year when those units are available. And so we're trying to confirm if we can pre-verify them and get them qualified so that they have qualifiable income within at least 12 months of purchasing on that. And if we can do that, if all sides agree to that, then that will actually also help us fill those units and have a little less stress about people qualifying out of them. So.
Thanks, Ira.
Oh.
Thank you. Appreciate the information and the report. Look forward to hearing what moves forward as we keep doing the work.
I just want to give, this is John Trent. Just want to give a shout out to Ira, Bev, and Marvin. They did a educational session for down payment assistance with all of our community-based organization about a couple of weeks ago. And today they also met with lenders and realtor to do informational session about down payment assistance and how that all the process worked. So again, we're looking to streamline some of the process to make sure that when someone is buying a home, the whole process is smooth on our side and also on the community-based organization side.
It's great news.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the report. Moving forward, our preference policy update with Divisha. She's joining us via Zoom.
Yes, good evening, Dr. Holt. Good evening, committee members. I apologize, my signal is not the best, so I will be off camera during the presentation, but it is a pleasure to see you all. Okay, thank you, Norma. Next slide, please. So here we have the number of preference policy families. This is the number of people that are on the wait list. We have a growing number for the 6-point cohort. We are at 366. For the 5-point cohort, we're at a little under 200. The 4-point cohort is growing and catching up with the 6-point cohort, which is something that we like to see. They're at 302. 3-point cohort is at 446. 2-point cohort is at 528 families. 1-point cohort has 243, and the ever-growing 0-point cohort is at 2,000. A bit over 2,000 at 2,402. We have a little over 5,000 applicants on the wait list. Please note this is not a little over, but close to 5,000 applicants on the wait list. Please note this is before the removal of the families who have been non-responsive. As a result of the project we implemented early this summer. If we can go to the next slide, I'll expand a bit on that so you know what we've been working on. So we've been strengthening our communication continually. We've communicated directly with 1,537 families via email or phone. I have to give a shout out to my colleague Hodo Adan. I believe she is on the call. And also a shout out to my colleague Aurelia. They have done a dynamic job in working to roll out this very long, extensive process of contacting families, confirming interest in remaining on the wait list, collecting information as it pertains to what bedroom sizes the people prefer, as well as confirming contact information, making sure we have the right email addresses, as that will be the primary way we will be communicating with families, with, of course, exceptions to make sure the process is still accessible. We are going to continue to roll out communications. There will be reminders sent to the 1-point cohort over the next month. That has already started. We will be reaching out to the 0-point cohort early next year to give some break, to do some data analysis, and to come back with a deeper report on our findings and on what our list will look like going forward. Next slide, please. Thank you, Matt. So as I mentioned, it will be continued outreach to families. Just want to assure you that we are using multiple channels to contact people. So people will get an email. They will get an email reminder to complete a form. Those that do not have an email or whose emails are returned to our inbox, they do get a phone call. We're doing everything we can just to make sure people have an opportunity to remain on the list if they are interested. We're continuing to monitor those response rates and adjust outreach strategies as needed. We will be building a targeted wait list, so refining the wait list so we can pull from it based on people's interest in certain properties. That is what is coming up next. Next slide, please. Thank you. Any questions or feedback?
Thank you very much. Let me ask if there are any questions from Achilles. Any questions for Divisha?
No questions.
Thank you. Claudia, any questions?
I was curious about like the targeted wait list that is going to be created. Is there certain things that will be on that targeted tab, for instance, or like what would that entail? I guess a little more about what that targeted wait list will look like, if there is any.
Yeah, so it's, oh, there we go. Yes, so it's about gathering people's preferences for the buildings. Our manager, Leslie Goodlow, has created a form. So shout out to Leslie, has created a form so we can collect that from the people going forward. Part of this project that we're launching right now is for the people who've already applied. So they have an opportunity to let us know their bedroom sizes. And then as we are moving through that, that's sort of our first hit at a targeted list because that's something we haven't, we've collected in the past, but it hasn't been used um, it was more helpful. It was used when it was a building specific wait list, I think is the clearest way that I can convey that. Whereas when we moved to a rolling wait list, we weren't collecting that information. Um, what we're planning now with the targeted wait list is just for it to be building specific. So if some people are not interested in specific buildings, we've had some people who've been on the wait list. They may be reapplied after they got housing through the wait list at one of our partners' buildings. We definitely don't want to continue to send them to the same building if they're already living there. So they would obviously opt out, or that's something we would be able to screen for a bit better in this approach for a targeted waitlist. It just makes it a bit more, without getting too technical, it makes it a bit more um, easier for our team to send people specifically to where they would like to live, like based on their preferences from filling out the form or um, and when we reach out to them.
Thank you. That's really great to hear.
Thank you for the question.
John Washington, good to see you in the meeting, sir.
There's a God, I know that, and it certainly isn't on my database. But whoever the young lady was that sent that last email to me, she's a genius. Good evening, everyone.
Hey, good evening. Thanks, Norma, for helping us get John into the meeting. I don't know if you heard the report about the preference policy from Divisha or not, John.
Not, I'm just joining the meeting just now.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Jesse, any question for Divisha?
Quick question. Thank you so much for your presentation. What is the monthly throughput or, folks getting from the wait list into housing currently?
Monthly. So people getting from the wait list to housing, it depends on when we get a wait list request, and it depends on the time that we get people to the providers and they get screened. Because we don't do screening, we don't really assess their housing. We won't get the wait list back until there's another request for the wait list. I don't have data on from the wait list to being housed. And I should have clarified, was that your question?
Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you. So it sounds like the wait list is a tool that the developers use to do outreach and fill their units, but it's not something that we know the turnaround on necessarily.
Yeah, not in real time. There is an interest in that, but in gathering that more thoroughly. But it's definitely used more as a tool. We don't get real time data on when someone is housed. We do have some providers that do provide the dates of move-in, so we have some data to work with, but it hasn't been anything structured that way quite yet.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for the question.
Ms. Vergie, any question?
No questions.
Lex?
No questions. Thank you.
Divisha, quick question for you, and maybe this is something that you will address, Ms. Goodlow. As we are working around the preference policy and making several adjustments, are you noticing, what are you noticing that you would identify as, here are some indicators or here are some ways we are tracking that the work we're doing is bringing a greater improvement or higher response, and that being either people's participation and or how it is connecting to the actual providers themselves?
Thanks for the question, Dr. Holt. Currently, the work we're doing, the project where I see the most responses, or I will not say the most responses, but a greater response rate has been through our outreach methods in collecting people's preferences for their, well, first confirming their interest in remaining on the wait list and collecting their unit size preferences. We have seen more people respond that way. Currently, we are sending the list to providers, and we're using, because this is a project that's working quite a bit in tandem or simultaneously with the list requests. I will be honest, it has been challenging because we are still working with people where there will be some people who are responsive. And there will be families on the wait list who may still be at a bit of a limbo based on our deadline for when they're supposed to respond to us for confirming their interest. So to clarify that a bit, if there's a list requested and we are in the midst of working with the next point cohort, or like when we're working with the 6-point cohort, we have to send the list before the families that were sent the form before the deadline. I won't not send those families because they haven't responded just yet. I will still send those families. So unfortunately, the response rates have not been the best. I have not seen much improvement from the wait list that we send because the adjustment hasn't quite settled yet. I did send another list today, however, that has a number of families who have a good group of families, the 6-point, 5-point, and eventually we'll get to the 4-point as well. Families who their deadline has passed for sending in their form, confirming their interest in their building and their bedroom preference sizes. So I'm hoping from that we get better results in terms of response rates. Does that answer your question, Dr. Holt?
Yeah, it does. Thank you for that. Thank you for the care that you have given to the work associated. How long has it been since the changes have been being implemented? I don't remember.
We started in August, so it's been a few months, and we're working through the list. And every family has they're given about 30 days to respond, because these are families that have been on the list, some of them since as early as maybe 2023, 2021. So we want to give ample time for them to respond.
Okay, thanks, Davish. I appreciate it. I'll bombard Ms. Goodlow with other preference policy questions. We will move forward to our next item, which is preference policy, and Ms. Goodlow.
Well, good evening, everyone. My apologies for not having slides. I was on vacation and didn't get them done. So I will send out a written report of all of this to you all the first part of next week. So the first thing I wanted to cover was the waivers that have been granted on units since our last meeting in September. I've waivered 24 units since September, and those are across a variety of buildings. I have received a request for Albina 1 for somewhere between 25 and 50 units. That is a brand new building. The rent has been reduced, so 60% rents, and Carly's here, are about 47%. So they've been able to reduce the 60% rents down to 47%, and they're still having trouble leasing. They've reached out to over 1,200 people and have only filled about half of the units. They want to continue to utilize the preference policy, but in the meantime, I wanted to let you all know that I'm probably going to approve the waiver for those units so that they, because they were hoping they'd be fully leased by the end of this month. And we don't want to put them into financial struggle with the units remaining vacant. One of the things that we're seeing is similar to when COVID hit. People are very apprehensive about moving and changing anything in their life because of all the things that are going on with the federal government. I've talked to probably 25, 30 families on the list and asked them why. You know, they're on the list, they're brand new units, the rent is lower, and they're just afraid to move. They're afraid to that it's going to destabilize their family by moving. And even if they're paying higher rent now, just the costs of moving and associated with kids changing schools and all of that, we're just seeing a lot of people being very apprehensive about moving. And so we want to support AVT in leasing up Albina 1, and I wanted to give the committee an opportunity to give any feedback on that, or if you have any concerns, to let me know. So before I go on to the next issue, I wanted to hear if the committee has any questions or concerns.
And I will start with our online team. John, since you were here, sir, hey, questions, comments, thoughts?
Yeah, I think that we had this conversation once before, Leslie, when this became of a concern. And I guess the question that I had asked was that, do you have sole latitude to do and make those decisions as the person you are for Portland Housing? I'm just curious, are you the sole person that makes that decision, rather we go or stay?
Well, I can I can approve a temporary release of the unit from the preference policy so that they can lease it up. And then once that person who came into the unit, so if they lease to somebody tomorrow that's not on the preference policy, they get a year lease or however long the lease is. In a year, they're like, I'm moving. And so that unit would come back. They would have to come back to the preference policy to lease it the next time. So yes, I do have the authority to give a temporary waiver for any of the preference policy units.
So the response you're asking us is that as an advisory capacity, or
yes,
we actually feel?
Well, because this is a significant number for this one building, and it is a brand new building.
Hello. Yeah, my point.
Yes, and so that's why I wanted to hear from the committee about any concerns that you might have or questions. Carly is here from AVT to answer questions if I can't answer them. I didn't want to do that. I don't want to release that number without advising you all that that's what I'm doing. So that's why I brought it to the committee tonight. One or two units at a time in a building, you know, that's not as big of an issue as up to 50 units in a brand new building.
Exactly. And I guess the question that I labor is, okay, so once we get here, I mean, is there more asset coming online?
Yes.
And is the actual vision or the mission of the asset being fulfilled? And if it isn't, then how we got this far down the line with filling it with an expectation, but here we are now, and now we're subsidizing or moving toward trying to somehow or another create, that's half of the asset. I mean, I can see if it was 25% of the asset, but that's half of the asset. Well, what's the total capacity of the building again? I forgot.
Yeah, there are 75 preference policy units. And right
75.
now...
So go ahead. Oh, preference policy. Okay, what's the total unit capacity of the
94.
Building? 94, yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. So, I mean, I don't know. I get uncomfortable every time we start looking at this and we go, oh, here we go. they're not leased out. We're still here, but yet it took a message and a vision to get us to where we are right now. So the question is that message and vision, is it changing? Is it going to change? Or did we just use it to get here or what? I mean, are we fulfilling the mission?
So those are great questions, John, and it's the same thing that I have talked to Carly about, and I talk to all of our development partners about whenever they request a waiver, that my concern is us going away from the mission. And the mission is supporting people with generational ties to Northeast Portland. And so I don't give waivers lightly, but I also, as a member of the executive team of the Bureau, have to be aware of the financial burden on our development partners to have units sitting vacant. We did request, I think you all may remember, some of you, others of you that are new, we did request out of the budget this last year some funds for a vacancy fund to help cover units, preference policy units, if they sat vacant for more than 45 days, to help try to make the units whole, or the partners whole, if they couldn't lease up with the preference policy. We were not approved for those funds. We, again, we have some renter services money, rental registration fee money that was not budgeted, that we're trying to get approved, a portion of that to go towards a vacancy fee for these buildings. The concern is that by the time we get done with all of the buildings, we'll have almost 1,000 units.
Right.
And the remaining 3 buildings all have reduced the rent, and we're still struggling. So we had an info session for Strong last week, for the Strong site. It'll be open sometime in the spring. And even with additional subsidy to bring the rents down, people were saying that the rent was too high. So that's a continued issue that the Housing Bureau is having to struggle with. It's not just an issue in these buildings, it's an issue across the city, that 60% units are just too expensive. One of the things that Helmy did about a month ago was she did some analysis of the 60% units and how many more 60% units we have than people that can afford them. And so it's like when we had all these studios that were sitting vacant because nobody wanted studios, and now we've got 60% units in affordable housing buildings across the city that we can't lease. And so how do we address that? We don't want people to...
I think the question is, one of the committee members is, what's the message that this is telling us? What's the forecast? You know, and I would say that I would think that that would be also your beholding your blessing, Leslie. You know, I think that we need to sort of go into committee at some point in time and begin to discuss this issue from the time, because I don't know, it's been almost 2 years now since we've been seeing the deterioration within the asset, and the question about relief coming, you know, for each of these buildings from time to time. I mean, so what really is the message being said to us? Are we forecasting what's coming? You know, and so just my thoughts about that part of it, just some cautionary reality. I think this is an indicator of something. I don't necessarily believe it's just business as usual.
Well, John, if you recall, one of the things that we talked about when we reported out to City Council prior to the new government, we talked about the fact that 60% units were just out of reach. We talked about the need for 50% units. We talked about the need for 40% units. And so we've known that the cost has been outpacing people's livelihood. So that's part of our challenge. That's part of our issue, and something that we've got to figure out in terms of figuring a funding source to help buy down the expense, create a greater subsidy for families. So we know that. That's number one. But then number two that's happened, Ms. Goodloe just indicated it, is we have a very tenuous moment in community, and people are living with unrest because of the political climate. And so there is a dynamic that we could not forecast for in terms of people wanting to move and their comfortability to move, those who are currently preference policy folks who could potentially get into other spaces. So it's an interesting moment, and I don't know that there's a panacea. I don't know that we've got a simple answer for it, but I think part of our work certainly is to raise the issue around greater subsidy and more investment for affordability. I think that's part of the issue, because I agree with you 100%. It's been 10 years for me sitting at this table and fighting for this space. So the last thing we want to do is give up the preference policy to waivers. And at the same time, we don't want to hamstring and or end organizations who can't, fund or cover their expense by being 50% full. So it's this push-pull dynamic.
Yeah, or use this pathway to get there, but to have this in tow anyway, this message in tow. Because it's become pretty clear that if we're struggling in any of those quadrants with the asset in terms of 60%, then that's already visible right now. And that's so. I think that we're going to have to really begin to sit down and take a look at what we got going on. So anyway,
Agreed.
I yield to the floor. I'm sorry to take so much time with that one, Leslie, but I was just blown away when we look at 50% of the asset just going, hey, okay, let's just relinquish it. And we've been fighting pretty hard to maintain and develop the assets in which we do have.
John, I just want to say thank you so much, because again, you're saying exactly what I have said, and I don't want people to think that I'm just being mean. And so it is concerning. It's concerning to me, and again, I don't do it lightly, but I also don't want to have buildings sitting vacant. And so it is a balance for us at the Bureau to support our partners, as well as trying to stick to the mission and the vision of why we did this in the first place. So I think it would be worthwhile for the committee to have a work session around some of these things. There's some other things I'm going to be bringing up that we could potentially have a work session around to have some discussion and to help people have a better understanding of both the situation as it is in the system, and then what are possible solutions for this problem. So
we're going to keep going to other members. Thank you. Tanisha Renee, hi. I see your name. You're still muted.
I'm driving. I'm sorry. I'm here. I'm just listening. And just to kind of off the top of my head, what I have been hearing, it's really unfortunate the times that we live in. And I understand the compromise sacrifices that we're having to make for this. And, there's no easy solutions. That's all I can kind of say off the top of my head. And I'm just at a stoplight, so I'll go back on mute. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanisha. Claudio, comments?
1 second. Here we go. Hello, everyone. I am Claudio, she, her, AI pronouns, and I am so excited to be a new member of the committee here. Are we telling a little background of ourselves? Sorry.
Not yet. We're responding to the waiver conversation in regard to specifically Albino One.
Oh, okay.
So if you have any comments or thoughts about that.
Not right now, thank you.
Okay. Achilles.
All right. This is something all concerned, like Mr. John Washington had mentioned before. We're building buildings just to build, but what's the actual amount of the rent? We should look at what's the actual cost. That obviously is too expensive for our families to afford to be moving into these apartments. So if you're building just to build, but yet people can't afford to get into these apartments, that's one of the controversies that we have here in Portland.
Well, in this, and I agree with you 100%, the unique thing about this particular facility is that they were able to go out and garner support from a variety of sources, which Carly could speak to, but we're talking about a 60% unit now at 47%. And so this isn't just an economic issue. This is the transition issue, which Ms. Goodlow communicated just in terms of uncertainty. We can't mitigate that. That's beyond our capacity to navigate. So it's not just a money thing that we're talking about at this moment. There is, and let me take a brief second and say this. We are living in a time of significant unrest. It is unrest in every arena. We're dealing with, and John, you know, we were in a meeting last night that just introduced a brand new level of chaos and mayhem into some of our economic development. There is unrest around us that's been driven by forces and things that are out of our control. What we have to do at this moment, while we're not happy about some of it, we still have to be very thoughtful and responsible with how we navigate the waters. So this isn't simply a money issue at this moment. This is something else. And so to be responsible to ensure the longevity of the work that we have put in, then I agree we definitely need a work session to do some strategic things together and think long term. So I appreciate it, Achilles. Were you going to say anything else?
Well, I was just going to add that still people are still paying rent or whatever place that they're currently at. So it is also a financial situation still. So I don't know if that's all, because even reduced at a 47%, but they're still finding it too expensive. I question that.
Thank you, sir. Jesse.
Really appreciating the discussion, and thank you, John and Achilles, for your words. I really agree with the work session. I feel like there's a lot to figure out here, and I would love to understand more about what the barrier is for people to get into the units, and like that feels like the maybe slower process that we need to be in around figuring out, you know, what the barrier is and how to stay in alignment with the mission here. And then also I'm hearing a sense of urgency around these particular units, and I'm curious if there's opportunities to explore some of, like, are the barriers financial by perhaps exploring like waivers for some of those units but not all, and maybe even offsetting the waivers that are given with like a lower or a, you know, higher subsidy for some of the units that remain. I just am curious about like what creative solutions there might be to explore some of that.
So I'll just say real quick that Carly is amazing, and that she is very dedicated to the preference policy, as is Albina Vision Trust. And so they very clearly want to maintain leasing through the preference policy, or folks that are connected. And again, they've gone through 1,200 names and got
26 move-ins.
26 move-ins.
And then of the 49 that we're requesting, we do have 22 people that are in some stage of the application process that might get to be approved and move in from the preference policy. So we do not want to get a waiver with those folks if they can move in, but so many people drop out even when you're in that. And then there's 27 remaining that we have not been able to fill with that entire, we've contacted every person from every point cohort through 1,200 names. Even as they get new 6-point applications, 5-point applications, we get them. So we have tried hard.
What's the rent range in that building?
So we have 1s, 2s, and 3s, and the 1s are $1,062. And then bear in mind, all of these numbers are all utilities included. They don't pay any additional utilities. And we have high-speed internet available optional for $15 a month for the household. So the 2 bedrooms are $1,279, and the 3 bedrooms are $1,480. And then you just have to qualify for those at 60% AMI. household income, but then those rents are 47%. So then they're less rent burdened if they do qualify around 50 or 55%. So
What are the sizes of the units, Carly?
The one in square footages or bedrooms? Yes. The one bedrooms are, oh God, I think they're in the 550 range, 560. The twos all do have one bathroom, so that's a difference, especially with our 3 bedrooms. But it hasn't come up as a big issue for many. The twos are in the, they're 770, I want to say, and then the 3s I think are 990.
Thank you.
Okay. So we will continue working on this. Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Ms. Virgie?
I'm concerned about the units not being I'm more concerned about the people on our wait list, and I'm concerned about the, are they unemployed at this point? Are we dealing with people, or what about their income?
So none of the people so I'll say all of the people I talked to were employed or had income, and they're currently renting somewhere. But almost all of them said they were afraid to move because of the current situation in the country. Some of them said, because of SNAP, earlier this month, late last month, that they were not going to have food stamps, so they couldn't, they were not going to move when they didn't know if they were going to be able to buy food. And so just a lot of very similar concern that we heard during COVID. Just the unknown of the current situation, that people were like, I'm going to stay where I am, even if I'm in a bad situation, and that might be a better situation. At least I know what this situation is. They're concerned about going from the frying pan into the fire. And so, that's not everybody. Of course, they called 1,200 people. I talked to about 35. But, you can extrapolate out to folks just, the situation is significant right now. So, I can't say everybody's got a job, or everybody's got to have an income if they're renting someplace, whether they have a voucher, or if they're in a subsidized unit. We do have a lot of people on the list that are looking for subsidized units, and we don't have that many subsidized units in the portfolio, and that's a different process. So we, if folks are looking for a subsidized unit, we try to connect them directly with the buildings that have project-based Section 8 so that they can get on those lists. Everybody that's waiting for Home Forward, that applied, they had 20,000 people apply for 2,000 spots or whatever it was. Because, people are just concerned. And so that's the situation.
I am concerned too about the government, federal especially, the fact that people are being furloughed and they're told not to come to work. They don't have a paycheck. And so are we dealing with people like this on the wait list? That
I can't say specifically if anybody on our wait list is a federal employee that's been furloughed. I don't know. We don't ask that level of question. Mm-hmm. And again, everybody I talked to said that they were employed, but that they couldn't afford to move.
Okay, I guess they're going to be meeting and working. That's all I have to. There's some things we need to know.
Yes, thank you. Lex?
Yeah, this is my first time hearing about the problem, so I'm just trying to listen and take it in. My brain is definitely really curious, and I haven't fully formed a question, but I am wondering a bit more about the community engagement around it and kind of understanding the barriers. And Yeah, the uncertainty, there's something about it that I want to like understand more. And so the one question that I have kind of formed is just like understanding of trust, and then also understanding, or if there are like community ambassadors who are championing this mission. Like we're all, it sounds like, a champion of this mission, but who in the community is also a champion of the mission, and how are the stories being told about moving, and like who's telling those stories, and who are these families like in community with, and if they see a family move in, will they be more likely to move in? I'm just kind of wondering like what that connective tissue looks like. Yeah.
Thanks, Les. Appreciate the engagement and response. I would say, and you tell me, committee, if I'm missing it, we obviously are committed to the preference policy, and I appreciate the same commitment here. While it isn't ideal to have to give waivers, it is still protected in that the person who receives the waiver, once they move, that unit returns back. So we're not giving up the unit. What we're doing is helping to solidify the ability of the organization to hopefully balance the book. Did I understand you, Carly, that the people who are in the pipeline now potentially could qualify for preference policy?
Yes, of the 49 requested waivers, we have 22 people in the application process from the preference policy that we're hoping make it through to the final move-in. So if that is the case, we have 100% success there, then it's really only 27 units that we're requesting a waiver. We don't know, and a lot of people, when they're in the process, they will either, some of them are over income, some may be under income, other people just decide to cancel for many, many different reasons, even if they get to final success. It's a lot of paperwork too. I mean, it's hard. It's hard for everybody. So, yes, hoping for 27.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Carly. I will get your letter out first part of next week. Okay, at the last meeting, I gave an update on some of the things we're working on in the office related to the preference policy implementation, and some things that I've asked our communications team to do as we are getting ready to open. As I said, we just opened Albina 1. We have the Strong site opening in the spring, as well as M. Carter Commons, which is an over 55 building. AVT also purchased the Paramount, and so they are leasing that. And so we are every week doing social media posts about one of the buildings being open, the information about the building, and about the preference policy. We had really cut back on advertising and social media because we had so many people on the list. And so now we are going to ramp that back up. Divisha will be working with media partners around some ads, also some signs on TriMet buses, potentially on the inside, maybe some on the inside, maybe some on the back. We have to see how much it's going to cost. And so just so that we get it back into the public consciousness, some of that community engagement Lex was talking about, and working with other community partners, Multnomah County Aging Services for the M. Carter Commons, and developmental disabilities. I know they have a new name and I can never remember it, cognitive and something. It was developmental disabilities when I worked there. And it was a long time ago, I know. The other thing that I wanted to update the committee on is I had talked about purchasing a data system, a customer management system, and because of a number of things going on in the city with the executive order and all of the things going on in the national politics, we've had to put that on hold for a little while. Hopefully, after the first of the year in the spring, we'll be able to put that back on the front burner to work with procurement to purchase something. There is a system that some of the bureaus are using that could potentially work for us, and with some additions. So we'll be looking at that. I think I mentioned already, we had our first info session for the Strong site on the 5th or the 6th. And we will be doing more sessions working with Northwest Housing Alternatives and the Urban League and CDP and SEI around getting people signed up. So SEI families, getting them onto the list so that they are can apply for the Strong site. That is, Mary, 95 units in the Strong site? Mary? I don't know if she knows. I think it's
No, sorry, I'm M. Carter Commons.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's 63.
63.
Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. 63 at M. Carter Commons. That's studios and 1 bedrooms, and I think it's either 94 or 95 units at the Strong site, and those are all, there's a few 1 bedrooms, but mostly 2 and 3 bedrooms. So I did, as I discussed in September, I gave a blanket waiver for any units that came available in the month of August so that the staff could take vacation and have a little break and then try to get caught up. I will potentially do that again in December. I'm down to 2 staff right now, and I want them to be able to enjoy the holidays and not feel compelled to not take any vacation because of list requests. It is a lot of work that goes into when a list comes back from one of our development partners. There's a lot of work, handwork that goes into transferring that information from that list into the main spreadsheet. And so it takes about 5 to 7 days of Divisha working on getting that information in, and if we get multiple lists back at the same time, it's then trying to go through and indicate, so we send one name, so I send Dr. Holt's name out and it goes to 3 different buildings. And he may not respond to 2 of them, but he responds to the 3rd one. And so we have to go through and indicate for every single person, whether they responded, whether they said no, whether they said it wasn't the right size unit, whatever it is, we have to update that database. And again, it's very labor intensive, which is why we want to purchase some kind of data system that our partners can load that directly into and cut down on the data entry. And so looking at potentially doing some blanket waiver for any units that come vacant between December 1st and December 31st. I haven't made that decision yet. I wanted to let the committee know that that's a possibility, hear any concerns about that before I make that decision. So I have one other thing that I want to talk about, but I wanted to discuss that first.
Thank you. We'll start in the room and then go in the reverse order. Lex, as you hear that, any comment or thought?
No, thank you.
Ms. Virgie?
No comment.
Jesse?
Thanks for taking good care of your people.
Trying.
And I look forward to the work session to understand more about like just the impact of the waivers and stuff like that.
Let me just say to Lex and to Jesse and to Claudia, welcome to the Oversight Committee. Yeah, this is what it looks like. You get tossed in right away. So even before getting through orientation, you just get put in the mix. And we ask you all kinds of fun questions to make decisions, not just about concepts, but real people, real life, real stuff. Claudia, any thought in regard to the comment? from Ms. Goodlow.
No questions at this time.
Aquiles,
No question. We're good.
Tanisha, any thought?
No question for me. Keep up the good work, Leslie. I really appreciate it. And again, wonderful to look out for your staff.
Big John?
No, I'm gonna let Leslie slide right now because she was long-winded, boy. She kept on, kept it working, girl.
Thanks,
Yeah,
John.
it's we all know it's hard right now in the climate and all that kind of stuff. But the one thing we know, when it gets difficult, we got to continue to move forward. And and I appreciate your navigation, in-house and out-house, and so you just keep on going the way you're going. But one question I did have for you: are you open to entertain presentations from other people who do CRM systems?
Well, when we get to the point of doing some info sessions, then yes, we'll want to hear, we're going to do an RFP and we'll want to hear from anybody that has a system. We did one prior to getting the kibosh put on it. And so we'll be hopefully back on track, and Antoinette's on the call, so she's going to lead that for us at sometime in the spring, hopefully. But yes, we will be open to hearing from anyone that is interested in providing that for us.
Right on. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I make my comment, Michael, I see your card up.
Thank you, Dr. Holt. I just wanted to offer a thought to the committee as I reflect on the previous conversation we had about folks' concerns about the temporary waivers. And I just want you all to know, as the interim director, I share those concerns and a strong commitment to the preference policy, and look forward to digging into ways we can sort of fortify it. And at the same time, as you may be coming away feeling like you made a really tough decision, I also want to ground that in the truth that those apartments will be rented to folks who are really economically vulnerable, and it's really hard to find, apartments that are affordable at 40% AMI. And I believe, Leslie can correct me if I'm wrong about this, but in the past when we've given waivers to affordable housing providers, they're still tending to rent those apartments out to a high percentage of people of color. So we really are serving still folks in the community who need those affordable apartments. So if that gives you a little glimmer of comfort, I just wanted to offer that.
Appreciate that. So before I make the comment in regard to the potential waiver, I want to give a shout out to Divisha and her partner who've been doing this work and carrying the load in this space. We appreciate the extra effort. Again, part of the unexpected changes within things we can't control. And then you find yourself in a space where you're still pushing forward. And this work is vital, and it's demonstrated on a consistent basis. So in terms of a waiver for units that might become available for the month of December, I think we're in the same place. The position doesn't change. We continue to be concerned, and I'm glad that there's a trust that with Ms. Goodlow in this seat, that she's going to wrestle around the things to ensure that we're making the best decisions possible. So.
Thank you, everyone, for the feedback, and I will let you know by the end of next week. I will be sending out an update to all of the community partners, our development partners, letting them know the status of all of the things that I just mentioned to you, and then the waiver for the month of December if they need it. And last but not least, which is going to get me a big rousing cheer, several of our development partners have asked about a permanent release of units from the preference policy, some percentage across all of the buildings to be released, to be leased up from a waiting list or whatever. And so I am not asking you all to make that decision tonight, but I did want to let you know that that has come to the Bureau and to myself from a number of arenas. And I would like to put it on the agenda for our work session to talk about whether, what the feasibility is of that, what the impacts are, what the pros and cons are of us releasing some additional units that are not project-based Section 8 or PSH, because currently those are the only types of units that are currently released from the preference policy.
PSH meaning?
Oh, I'm sorry, permanent supportive housing. And then one other, just one piece of good news, PCRI opened Kafori Court a couple weeks ago. It is in the district, but it is the whole building is PSH, so permanent supportive housing, so it is not subject to the preference policy, but it is within the district. So it's one of the buildings. We've had 3 buildings that are not subject to the preference policy that are built within the district that at any point, if that building stops being a PSH building, then it would be subject to the preference policy. So wanted to, that great news that building opened. And the last piece of information, Williams and Russell, the rental units, we are getting to finally getting to be able to give them a pre-dev loan for the rental building that will be there at Williams and Russell. I actually ran into Kimberly Horner when I was leaving to go to Arizona. We took a selfie in the airport, and very excited about getting a pre-dev so that they can get started on that project. So
It's great news. It's only been how many years we've been working for that?
August of 2017.
My
when
goodness.
We started working on Williams and Russell.
My goodness.
And so that's all of my report.
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Goodlow, for the request from several of the providers. We will not discuss that tonight. It will be something that goes into a work session, and I would ask that there be representatives from those partners to participate in some of that discussion. I'm curious as to what they're finding. I do have a question for you in relationship to the changes that have been made with the preference policy and some of the processing of the preference policy. We had a meeting, a few months ago here, but in the other facility, was that May, where the partners came and they expressed their frustration with the process and so forth. Has there been any follow-up in our partners now being more, feeling like they're being better served, or do we know yet?
Well, I try to send them an update every month of where we are, what we're still working on, the changes that we've implemented. So we did as Divisha mentioned, we did a mailing out to everyone by cohort, and we gave folks a QR code to respond to say, to update their information, to tell us what size unit they're looking for, and if they had a building preference. And so, as she mentioned, we had better responses at the higher point cohorts, and then, but we are averaging, is it about 40%, Divisha?
44% was just the general response rate. I will refer back to that presentation again, but 44% was the response rate as of the last Oversight Committee meeting.
Thanks, Divisha. So about 44% of folks responding to that request for updated information. We still haven't decided what we're going to do with the folks that don't respond. And so part of what we're hoping to do as we get new people on the list is orienting them to what their responsibility is for being on the list. And that is to respond when they're asked for information or when someone calls them. We have implemented a first touch. So when we pull a list, we notify those people saying, hey, Ms. Virgie, we're going to send your name to X, Y, and Z. These people are going to respond to, they're going to be reaching out to you. Make sure you respond. Or you can email us back and say, I'm not interested. And we get, between 30 and 40% response rate from that. And so really the struggle is getting people to respond. Now, generally folks respond better to us than they do to our development partners. I don't know why that is, but I don't have enough staff to do all, for us to do all of the outreach for them to fill their units. And so with the CRM, we were hoping that we would have a system that we could do that from the system. Like we can text people or we could email people from the system and say, hey, there's a unit available at Albina 1. It's a 3-bedroom. Here's the rent. Respond if you're interested. And so then we can just send those over to Carly and her leasing team to say, hey, we sent this out to 100 people and these 10 people said they were interested in that particular unit. That's where we're hoping to get to. But right now we're still sending out these very large lists to try to get the units leased up. So while I thought by now, by the first of the year, we would have a CRM, that we'd be doing less data entry because of everything that's happened, we have not been able to get to that point. And, to be perfectly transparent, my team is pretty overwhelmed with all of the, when this started, we never figured we were going to have 8, 9, 11, 12 buildings. We were going to have 3.
What a wonderful problem.
Yeah, it is a great problem to have, but at the same time, that's almost 1,000 units that we need to keep leased. And how do we do that with the population that we're trying to serve? And so, it's a balancing act that I mentioned earlier. But so back to the original question. I will be notifying all of our partners. I've not heard specifically from anyone about any of the changes. Folks have been very appreciative of the updates. We have had questions as new buildings are coming online about, again, releasing some of the units from the preference policy because of the difficulties in leasing.
So if we could put that as part of if somebody's capturing this, it would be great to get an update from how the partners are feeling about the current shiftings and changings that have happened, as well as I'd like to hear directly. I don't want you to be a go-between or anyone else. I want to hear directly from them who are asking for permanent release and some of the concerns which would weigh even deeper into what we've raised here tonight. So with that being said, thanks for everyone's participation. Norma, do we have anyone signed up for public testimony? Okay. Well, we're going to take a moment, and I want to give a couple of minutes, 2 minutes or so, to our new committee members. Welcome to the Oversight Committee, and I'm excited about your being here. I'm going to start with Claudia. Claudia, who is with us remotely. Take a moment, introduce yourself, and why you are excited about being a part of this world.
Hi, good afternoon or good evening, everyone. My name is Claudia Claudio. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm really excited to be a part of this committee because I want to be a voice for my community. I want to be a voice for individuals that, that I see myself in. I was once someone that was able to be a part of different housing programs in Portland, from having a Section 8 voucher to living in income-based housing. And so just having gone through those lived experiences myself is why I'm here today, is to take up space and be a voice for my community. So I'm happy to be here.
Well, we welcome you. Celebrate, celebrate, celebrate. We're glad you're here. Jesse, if you can introduce yourself, Sam.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jesse Goncalves. I use he or they pronouns. Very excited to be a part of this and learn how to support this work. I'm really inspired by the opportunity to undo a lot of the harm that's been done in this area in terms of the displacement of particularly Black community, which I've seen over the course of my time living here. I was born and raised in Portland, in North Portland, actually. My parents still live in the house I grew up in. And I really want to be a part of a thriving, diverse community here. So that's first and foremost why I'm here. But also, I now work in the space of homelessness. I lead the business intelligence team at Central City Concern, and I'm very excited to kind of bring the lens of, housing insecurity as a huge issue that all of us are facing here in Portland in many different ways. And I really want to just be a part of creating stable housing and stable community that will feel supportive for all of us to be living amongst.
And last but not least, Lex.
Hi, I'm Lex Weaver. I use she, they pronouns, and it's hard to put into words in this moment, like exactly the excitement. There's a lot of passion and curiosity that I have just around being here. I do work at Metro in DEI. I've worked in DEI for a long time, and that's been very like strategic thinking, kind of up in the tower, making decisions that hopefully advance equity for someone. And working in government has made me really want to be a civically engaged member of my community. So that's why I wanted to join a committee. And then this topic is, it's just kind of hard to articulate just how meaningful it is to be 8 years into moving to Portland, so I wasn't born here, and to slowly be able to feel like I'm part of this and I get to shape this, and this is for my people, as well as maybe for people I'm not even fully aware of yet. So yeah, I could kind of ramble, but overall I'm just really stoked to be part of this, and I'm really tired right now, but I'm generally pretty like feisty and outspoken, so I'm super stoked to bring that to this space.
Well, welcome. We are glad you're here. Let me wrap up for tonight. It's interesting. I kind of thought this would happen. When we do not overload our agenda, it gives us opportunity to process information. So I kind of anticipated we would be here until the end of the evening. Normally, at the end of our time, I will say something specific related to housing and the importance of housing, and or why I have been a part of this and why we prioritized this. I want to not forego that specifically, but I do want to say to all of those who will capture this or see it at some time, the theme that kept recurring is the uncertainty of the moment, just a recurring theme, and how it brings so much unrest. For people who live in or work in the professional arena, we would use a word trauma.
Yep.
We would talk about trauma, trauma impact, and trauma-informed decision-making. The Oversight Committee exists because of the people who have had to normalize trauma. The Black community has had to live with pressure, uncertainty, insecurity, absence of guarantee on a regular basis. What's now the reality of the nation, and what the nation is now feeling with this uncertainty, has been our lived reality since day one. So my thought around the moment really is, and I said this to, it doesn't matter. My thought around the moment is to leverage the opportunity of uncertainty and for us to heighten human dignity, and maybe we can work together because now it matters to everybody. So maybe there's a sensitivity to capture the moment and bring people in to become partners and supporters, because everybody's impacted in different ways. So as we're thinking Oversight Committee, and as we're thinking Portland Housing Bureau, and as we're thinking whoever else hears this, as we're thinking about an answer to this difficulty, maybe finally we can get to a place of united strategy so we all can have a better lived experience. Thanks so much for being here tonight. I appreciate your time, appreciate your effort. Let's go be great. Put our hands into some good trouble. Have a good night.
And happy holidays, everybody, because we don't meet again until January. So have a wonderful holiday season.
That's right. Overeat and sleep and all of that.